When I was back there getting my microphone, I ran into Gene, and he was getting his hearing assistance device, and he patted me on the back, and he said, "You know what? You're so good." And I thought he was going to say, "Man, your lessons, they really knocked me off my feet yesterday with your exegesis of Exodus." And I said, "Well, thank you, Gene. That's very nice of you to say." And he said, he looked down at his hearing assistance device, and he said, "For most people, I've got to turn it all the way up, but for you, I've only got to go halfway." So I think he was just talking, I don't know if he was not commenting on lesson quality, just, how loud that I am. But I'll just take whatever compliment that I can get. It's good to be back with you this morning. It's good to see so many of you here. And I always consider it an honor to teach a Bible class at North Lexington, because as many of you know, I was here as a college student and came here for undergrad at UK. And I always thought that one of the best things about North Lexington was its Bible classes. North Lexington has always had excellent teachers, always had excellent Bible classes, and I learned so much from so many of you. And I'm still learning about it today, because one of the other great things about North Lexington is that those Bible classes, all of them, are preserved. I always say, I was telling somebody before, Bobby, I was telling him beforehand, that the only two jobs in America that are life tenured are Supreme Court Justice and the adult Bible class teacher at Mount Zion Church of Christ. And so I'm in a sort of a never-ending teaching position, and you just sort of go through the chapters, and I landed on Revelation the other day, and it was an indescribable comfort to be able to go to the North Lexington website, look up in that website, just put in Revelation, and have populated in there lessons about Revelation from Bart Rogers. I mean, there's a man who leaves no stone unturned. One of the, I don't know why that was so funny, Paul. Do you? Paul thinks, I'll just say for the record, Paul thinks Bart does leave stones unturned by that laugh. But he leaves no stone unturned, had given such thought and such preparation to those lessons. And at my fingertips, and you can go there right now on the website. And I don't know every church's website. I'm not familiar with another congregation's website that you can, at the touch of your fingers, can log on there, and just any book of the Bible can pull it up and have a 45-minute discussion on any chapter of the Bible, from John Ferguson and from Steve Johnson and from Bart Rogers and from Brandon Rader. When I prepared for this class, I listened to 2 quarters of Brandon Rader look around every corner of Exodus. It was an indescribable help. And that's something that you teachers, Brandon taught that class in 2018. I don't remember when Bart taught that Revelation class. You put in all that time, and it's still helping people today. And I want to say that about North Lexington. It's a congregation that, I always felt this way when I was here, but it's a congregation that helps more people than just who's here. It's a church that helps beyond just the walls of this congregation. I don't know if this is the college class or the teens, but the college group used to sit over there when I was coming here. And, you just had people coming from all over the state, all over the country to school, and at UK and other places. And that's a real danger time for people. And this church reached out to those people, reached out to me when I was coming here, and just was, I always felt like was always the restoration lectureship, always doing things to help the brotherhood. And let me say this, I'm patting you on the back about that, but coming from a smaller congregation now, you should. To whom much is given, much is required. And I know enough about the congregation here at North Lexington to know this: much has been given to you. You have lots of great people who are thoughtful, who are bright, who are dedicated here, and you're doing great things, and I certainly appreciate that. If you'll open up your Bibles to Exodus, I think I probably would start with chapter 19, but we're going to be principally In Exodus chapter 32, I'm going to treat this mostly like a Bible class. So if you've got a comment, just jump in, let me know. And if you got a question, I'm sure Brandon will be able to address it for you. Just raise your hand up and I'll pass the mic. But for the most part, with whatever time we've got, what time's the class over? 15 after. Okay. All right. For the most part, I'm going to treat it like a Bible class. We're going to do a little bit of background that I think we need to have, and we're going to do a little bit of application at the end that I think we need to have. But for most of the time, if I can help it, although I may just spend the entire time introducing it and telling you what I'm going to do. For the most part, what I plan to do is just sort of go regularly like a Bible class, verse by verse, through the text that I've been assigned. Exodus 32, the topic that I've been assigned is overcoming modern idolatry. Many of you were here yesterday, and we really we really made a pretty good progress through the book of Exodus and got, most of the way through chapter 17. And so just for a quick recap, if you weren't able to make it, the children of Israel were in slavery. God heard their cries, raised up Moses, and used his power to bring them up out of slavery. He applied 10 different plagues to Pharaoh, including at last the death of the firstborn, which prompted Pharaoh to let the people go. He then pursued them. God parted the Red Sea. They passed on the other side. When they got there, they had a few problems. They were hungry and complained, and God gave them manna. They were thirsty and complained, and God gave them water. And after they got the water, we really didn't get this far, but in 17, there's this great little, chapter 17, there's this great little section where they get in a fight with the Amalekites. And the battle is going on, and all the whole time that Moses holds up his hands, they win the fight. But if he gets tired and drops his hands, they start to lose. And I remember, I don't know if some of you probably heard of Eddie Kraft. He had a TV show when I was growing up, and he was like a church celebrity. My goodness, speaking of celebrities, there's Greg Simmons walking right on time when I mentioned celebrities. He was like a celebrity back in Eastern Kentucky, and he was on TV every morning. My parents watched him every morning, and if he was within 100 miles, we went to hear Eddie Kraft. And I heard him give us a sermon probably 100 times, but I loved it every time, called "We Need More Men Like Her." Has anybody heard him give that sermon before? And the point of the lesson was, Hur helped keep the arms up, and he supported Moses in his time of need. Well, they won, and then his father-in-law came to give advice, and that's always pleasant in chapter 18. And again, some of you are laughing too hard at that. And he tells him he made me to delegate, and so here is born the bureaucracies and the intermediate courts and of Egypt. And that brings us to chapter 19. A lot going on in chapter 19, and it's not the chapter I was assigned. But you guys know I would feel I'm not bound by that. And it's directly related in a very significant way to the topic and the chapter that I was assigned. And so chapter 19, you hear this, there's this covenant that gets made with God and his people. And look at verse 5. God says, if you will indeed obey, of chapter 19, if you will obey my voice and keep my covenant, then you shall be a special treasure to me above all people, for all the earth is mine, and you shall be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. And then if you skip down to verse 8, the people say, all that the Lord has spoken, we will do. All right, outstanding. Things are going great. God tells them, let's make a covenant. They say, you just tell us what to do. You just say jump, and we'll say how high. That's sort of where we are here in 19. So then, and this is a really cool part of Exodus, chapter 19, verses 10 through 20. And I am going to do quite a bit of reading in this class because, the Bible says it better than me. But in Exodus 19, 10 through 20, God is about to come down. Right? There's been like lots of Moses running around and telling them what God is going to say. But God's going to come down, and he's going to have a little talk to him himself. And a lot of stuff starts happening when that happens. Look at Exodus 19, 10 through 20. Then the Lord said to Moses, go to the people and consecrate them today and tomorrow, and let them wash their clothes, and let them be ready for the third day. For on the third day, the Lord will come down on Mount Sinai in the sight of the people. You shall set bounds for the people, saying, take heed to yourselves that you do not go up on the mountain or touch its base. Whoever touches the mountain will be put to death. Okay, God's coming down. Wash yourselves up, clean yourself up. God's coming down. Don't touch the mountain. If you do, you'll die. Not a hand shall touch him, but he shall surely be stoned or shot with an arrow. Whether man or beast, he shall not live. When the trumpet sounds, they shall come near to the mountain. So Moses went down from the mountain to the people and sacrificed for the people, and they washed their clothes. And he said to the people, be ready for the third day. Do not come near your wives. Then it came to pass on the third day, in the morning, there were thunderings, lightnings, a thick cloud on the mountain, and the sound of a trumpet very loud. So all of the people in the camp trembled. It's quite a sight. Moses, don't touch that mountain, you'll die. God's coming down. Wash your clothes. And then there's thunder. There's lightnings. There's a thick cloud of smoke and the big sound of a trumpet. And the people are afraid. Moses is afraid, the New Testament tells us. And Moses brought the people out of the camp to meet God. And they stood at the foot of the mountain. Now Mount Sinai was completely in smoke because the Lord descended upon it in fire. Fire, thunder, lightning, smoke, a cloud. Dead if you touch it. Big trumpet. People shaking. And when the blast of the trumpet sounded long and became louder and louder, Moses spoke, and God answered him by a voice. Then the Lord came down upon Mount Sinai on the top of the mountain. Moses goes up. Moses comes back down. And then it seems to me, and you can correct me if I'm wrong about this, it seems to me that in chapter 20, Moses is down. God's presence is down off the top of the mountain. God's presence is there on the mountain. And God himself speaks to the people. And what he says to them is, I'm the God who brought you out of Egypt. Me, I'm him. And I'm going to tell you a few things that you need to do. And we read then God telling, among other things, the 10 Commandments. And two of the first things he says in those commandments is, have no other gods before me, and don't worship any graven images. Now, when God gets done giving his speech, all the people, chapter 20, verse 18, all the people witnessed the thunderings and lightnings and flashes and the sound of the trumpet and the mountain smoking. And when they saw it, they trembled, they stood afar off, and they said to Moses, you speak with us, and we will hear, but let not God speak with us, lest we die. Hey, Moses, how about you just do that from now on? They're backing up, they're scooting back, and they're saying, this is scaring us right to death. And won't you just do us a solid, and you be the one that talks to him about that, and not us. Now, God then does talk to Moses, and he reiterates a point. You can feel it coming, with all this talk here. Exodus 20:22, the Lord said to Moses, say this to the children of Israel, you have seen that I have talked with you from heaven. You shall not make anything to be with me, gods of silver or gods of gold, you shall not make for yourself. Moses, go tell them. Now, I just told them. In a fire, smoke, thunder, lightning mountain with a trumpet blast. I told them that a minute ago. But I want you to, they might have been too scared to hear about that. So I want you to go tell them yourself. Go tell them again. Don't make gods out of silver and gold. Stick with me. All right. So from this point on in our lesson, we're never going to, the children of Israel, whenever I talk about them, they're not going to be away from that same mountain. The mountain that just was the smoke, fire, thunder, lightning mountain, cloud mountain, trumpet mountain, they're always going to be right there. Okay? When I'm getting ready to go to chapter 24, don't think we've left. They only stay there for, less than a year, so it can't be too much time that's passing. And they always are there. They're there in 24, they're there in 32. Okay, so I don't want you to ever think we've left the place where all this is happening. In 24, God wants Moses to come up. And what he's going to do is he's going to write down some commandments on the tables of stone. And he tells Moses basically to bring over Aaron and her and leave them in charge. So you're coming up to me, Moses. I'm going to need you for a minute. We're going to have we're going to have the interim or acting. In my business, when somebody leaves, there's an acting director. And so we got Aaron, the acting leader of the children of Israel, while Moses is going to be up there on the mountain. And he tells them, just wait here, I'm going to be back. Now he goes up there, and he's up there for 40 days and 40 nights. And that is where chapter 32 starts. Excellent. I've used up nearly all of my time before getting to the main text as I predicted. So 32 verse 1. Now when the people saw Moses was delayed in coming down from the mountain, the people gathered together. That mountain is, again, the smoke, fire, trumpet, cloud mountain that they just saw God's presence on. The people gathered together to Aaron, and they said to him, "Come, make us gods that shall go before us. For as to this Moses," that's not what you want. In Eastern Kentucky, where I'm from, if you're that Drew, that's not good. You don't want to be, that old Drew over there. That's what you say when you don't like people. For as to this Moses, the man who brought us up from Egypt, we do not know what has become of him. They just saw the presence of God. He just talked to them out of a mountain. And the thing that he literally started off with in his speech from the fire, smoke, thunder, lightning mountain was, for me, for 2 months. And Moses is gone for 40 days, and we've already just he's gone. God's gone. His presence is up there with him. Who knows what's happened to him? Well, we may never even see him again. So here's what we ought to do. Let's not wait for sure about that. And let's make us a God to go before us, because we don't know where that man who led us out of Egypt went to. Now, Aaron's in charge. Aaron was, it was Aaron that Moses was being like, won't you take that stick and strike stuff, and then, plagues would happen. And I don't know. I mean, if I were just reading this for the first time, I guess what I would expect Aaron to say is something else besides what he says. I do understand that there's some language here. Well, I don't understand the language, but I'm told by people who do understand the language that the people are not like asking nice about this. I mean, it's not like they're saying, "Pretty please, we've got a swell idea. What do you think about possibly making us a god?" I mean, I think they're pretty riled up. But I would expect Aaron to say, no, we're not doing that. I mean, Moses will be back in a minute. Just chill out for a second, okay? That's the wrong idea. I would have even not been totally surprised if what he says is, "Now, guys, come on. That's probably not what we ought to do." But here's what happens. Before I get to that, I did skip over a really important thing. That's this, Psalm 106, 19 through 23. They made a calf in Horeb. They worshiped the molten image. They changed their glory, the image of the ox that eats the grass. They forgot their Savior, who had done great things in Egypt, wondrous works in the land of Ham, awesome things by the Red Sea. Therefore, he said he would destroy them. Had not Moses, chosen one, stood before him in the breach to turn away his wrath, lest he destroy them. Why did they do this? They forgot. They forgot. Now, I mean, they didn't like literally forget, I don't think, because they surely could remember it. It hadn't been that long ago. But they weren't thinking about it. They had let it get in the back of their mind. They pushed it out of their mind. They willfully pushed it out of their memory and thus forgot about it. They also, why also did they do it? Well, there was a gap in their life. Why do we have modern idolatry? People push God out of their lives, God's out of their lives, and they're filling the gap. There is, in my view, with humanity, always a spot where God is supposed to be. It's always going to be there. And if you take God out, as so many people in our culture have done, that emptiness is going to remain. Space abhors a vacuum. It's going to fill with something. And that's what happened to these people. Moses and God are gone up on that mountain. They're gone. There's a hole. There's an emptiness. And now we're going to fill it with something else. Okay? That to me is the basis of modern idolatry. A hole that's left by the dismissal of God from your life. Moses and God are gone. They've got an emptiness. They fill it with something else because they have forgotten, willfully, blindness, have forgotten God. Okay, now back to Aaron. Aaron, are you going to stand in the gap here and help us out and stop all this? You're going to restrain these people? Aaron said to them, break off those golden earrings. Now, that's no resistance at all. Aaron basically says, okay, let's do it. Break those earrings off your wives and your sons and your daughters and bring those to me. So the people broke off the golden earrings which were in their ears and brought them to Aaron. And having received the gold from their hand, he fashioned it with an engraving tool and made a molded calf. And they said, this is your God, O Israel, that brought you out of the land of Egypt. And when Aaron saw it, he built an altar before it. And Aaron made a proclamation and said, tomorrow is the feast of the Lord. Then they rose early on the next day. They offered burnt offerings. They brought peace offerings. The people sat down, they ate, drank, and they rose up to play. This is a bad look for Aaron. This is a bad look for Aaron. He's supposed to be in charge. He's supposed to stop this. He's supposed to restrain them. He doesn't do it. He tells them how to do it. He helps fashion the idol. He makes the idol, he just blows right by those first two commandments. He makes a graven image. Now, what is an idol? I looked up a couple of different definitions. One of the definitions I found is that an image or representation of God used as an object of worship. Another definition I saw was whatever your heart clings to and relies on, that is your God. Trust and faith in the heart make both God and idol. Certainly, whichever definition you choose, what Aaron has done is make an idol. What the people have done is make an idol. Now, those gold earrings, they probably came from Egypt, right? That was God helped them plunder the Egyptians. I think probably the Egyptians said, won't you just get out of here? Here, take my earring. Buy yourself a snack for the road. Don't let the door hit you on your way out. So they've taken the stuff from Egypt, and they also took the calf from Egypt too. That's what I think. We talked about yesterday during Vacation Bible School that several of the deities in the Egyptian pantheon that had over 1,500 gods were cow-related. One of their primary gods wore a headdress as a cow. They worshipped another god who was in the form of a cow. This is very probably appropriation of that Egyptian culture that they're bringing with them from Egypt. Did you ever wonder why they made a calf? I did. It may have been a bull. It may not have been little. It may have been big. But I always wonder why they did that. Well, they've taken it from the Egyptians. I mean, what a slap in the face. I mean, God told Moses that one of the reasons I'm doing all this is to exact judgment against the gods of Egypt. The Egyptian gods could not stop God in an actual contest. And 15 seconds later, they're making an idol that looks like an Egyptian god. That's where that came from. And then they say, and really to me, this is the thing that I understand the least. It makes the least sense to me. They say, this is the God that brought us out of Egypt. It is not. I mean, it's not. It's not a God. It came from their earring. They know it. They watched Aaron chisel it out. They also know that it is not that calf. I mean, that calf didn't exist when they came out of Egypt. How could they say that? Willful blindness. Forgot, pushed it out of their mind. Now, I want to read a couple of verses because that sounds crazy to me. And you say to me, maybe, well, Drew, you don't understand what it was like back in their times. You know what it was like. Well, back in their times, people thought it was crazy too, like Habakkuk. Habakkuk 2:18, what profit is the image that its maker should carve it? The molded image, a teacher of lies, that the maker of its mold should trust in it. To make mute idols? Woe unto him who says to wood, awake, to the silent stone, arise, it shall teach. Behold, it is overlaid with gold and silver, yet in it there is no breath at all. The next verse I'm going to read, I'll never forget. I don't see him in here. I don't know where he is. But one of my favorite teachers is Jerry Wise. And I don't know, Jerry tickles me right to death. I just think everything he says is so funny. And he subbed for Brandon during one of his classes that I listened to prepare for this lesson. And Jerry was one of the substitutes. And I laughed that whole time that I was listening to him because I just think his sense of humor is hilarious. But I'll never forget that Jerry taught out Isaiah 44. And I wish, if he was here, I'd make him read it again because it's stuck in my head so much. But Isaiah 44, verse 9, going through verse 20. It's long reading, but I just can't pass it up because it stuck in my head for so long that maybe it'll stick in yours. To those who make an image, all of them are useless, and their precious things shall not profit. They are their own witnesses. They neither see nor know, that they may be ashamed. Who would form a god or mold an image that profits him nothing? Surely all his companions would be ashamed. All the workmen, they are mere men. Let them all be gathered together. Let them stand up, yet they shall fear. They shall be ashamed. The blacksmith with the tongs works one in the coals, fashions it with hammers, and works it with the strength of his arms. Even so, he's hungry. His strength fails. He drinks no water and is faint. The craftsman stretches out his rule. He marks one out with chalk. He fashions it with the plane. He marks it out with the compass and makes it like the figure of man, according to the beauty of man, that it may remain in the house. He cuts down cedars for himself. He takes the cypress and the oak. He secures it for himself among the trees of the forest. He plants a pine, and the rain nourishes it. Then it shall be for a man to burn, for he will take some of it and warm himself. Yep, he takes some of it and bakes bread. Indeed, he makes a god and worships it. He makes a carved image and falls down to it. He burns half of it in the fire. With half of it he eats meat. He roasts the roast and is satisfied. He even warms himself and says, I'm warm. I've seen the fire. And the rest of it, he makes a god. His carved image. He falls down before it and worships it. Prays to it and says, deliver me, for you are my God. They do not know nor understand, for he has shut their eyes so they cannot see, and their hearts so they cannot understand. And no one considers in his heart, nor is there knowledge nor understanding to say, I have burned half of it in the fire. Yes, I have also baked bread on its coals, and I have roasted the meat and eaten it, and I shall make the rest of it an abomination. Shall I fall down before a block of wood? He feeds on ashes. A deceived heart has turned him aside, and he cannot deliver his soul, nor say, is there not a lie in my right hand? I mean, what a powerful discussion by the prophet Isaiah. You got a block of wood. You got a guy who takes a tree and cuts it down, cuts it into thirds. 1/3 of that he throws in the fire and warms himself. 1/3 he uses to cook his food. And he takes that other third and he chisels it out and he makes it into an image and bows down and worships it as his God. You know, the rest of that tree is burned up in a fire to make him a food and keep him warm. And he should know better than that. Psalm 115, 3-8. But our God is in heaven. He does whatever he pleases. Their idols are silver and gold, the work of men's hands. They have mouths, but they don't speak. Eyes they have, but they don't see. They have ears, but they don't hear. Noses they have, but they don't smell. They have hands, but they do not handle. Feet they have, but they do not walk, nor do they mutter through their throat. Those who make them are like them. Those who make them are like them. So is everyone who trusts in them. I was in preparation for these lessons. I ordered several books to read. I read some of them, but one of them I ordered was called "We Become What We Worship." I ordered that book. It's got a cow on the front of it, and I put it in the Amazon cart, and then I ordered it separately, and then Christina saw it in the Amazon cart, and she ordered it herself. So I got 2 copies of "We Become What We Worship." It became clear to me that I was not going to have a chance to read either copy of "We Become What We Worship," and so I bought also the audiobook of "We Become What We Worship." And I listened, and the narrator was, I mean, no offense, maybe one of you were the narrator. He was not excellent. And I couldn't make it very little. And now I've got 3 different copies in different mediums of "We Become What We Worship." But I did listen to like the summary of it. And here's what he's saying, which, you know, arguably the psalmist said it in one verse. Here's the thing about worshiping an idol. It ain't got any eyes. It's got eyes, but it can't see. It's got nose, it can't smell. It's got ears, it can't hear. And if you worship an idol, you're going to become just like them. Jesus says that, Matthew 13 through 36. Therefore, I speak to them in parables, because seeing they don't see, and hearing they don't hear, nor do they understand. And in them the prophecy of Isaiah is fulfilled. Hearing you will hear and shall not understand, and seeing you will see and not perceive. For the hearts of this people have grown dull. The ears are hard of hearing, and their eyes have closed, lest they should see with their eyes and hear with their ears, lest they should understand with their hearts and turn so that I should hear them. But blessed are your eyes, for they shall see, and your ears, for you shall hear. Guess what? Your idol doesn't have any eyes or ears. It won't see and listen. And if you worship those idols long enough, that's exactly what's going to happen to you. Why did Jesus teach in parables? Some of those people would not listen. They would choose willfully not to listen or understand what he was going to say, because they had become like the idols that they worshiped. One of the books that I got that I read even less of than "We Become What We Worship" was John Kakelman's book about idolatry. Kakelman did say, I read at least this much of it, he had a chapter called "Believing Modern Idolatry." He makes the point that in our modern culture, we will not be asked to throw our golden rings in to make a calf. And so let me ask you this question. What do you think are some modern idols? I mean, I do think Kakelman's right about that. I mean, it's not, I think the risks, although, I mean, I will say that we are on the set of the Temple of Doom here. So it wouldn't shock me if a golden idol, David had lodged it somewhere inside of the, inside of that. But putting that aside, the odds that somebody is going to, you know, come up to you and put down a cow and say, you know, let's just worship this, how about that, I think is fairly low. So I don't think, however, that means that the opportunities for idolatry in our time is low. So what do you think? Just a couple of ideas. What do you think are modern idols? Yes, Dennis? Yep, celebrities. What else? Cell phone. She's holding up a cell phone. All right, I'll add that to the list. What else? Sports. Sports? What now? That's the wrong answer, Dennis. What else? What else we got? What? Money. Money, there's a good one. What else? Sometimes our children. Sometimes. What else? Careers. Self-reliance. Ourself. How about politics? That's what I think is the modern idolatry of America. I think many Americans have left their church. They don't have a church. They don't have a set of their own beliefs that are reinforced by the Scripture. I'm a political science major, so I think I can talk a little bit bad about politics. That they have pushed God out. They have pushed the church out. And they've got that hole that I mentioned, right? And they need something to fill it. They don't want to fill it with the church. They don't like that. That's why they left. They want to pick what they put in there, and so they choose their own group of people to associate with, who have their own views and idols, and issues and sets of beliefs, and they exalt that up to where religion used to be in their lives. I think that could possibly be an idol. 2 Timothy lists some. For men will be lovers of themselves. That's what Donya said back there, themselves. They love themselves more than they love God. Lovers of money. Somebody said that. Lovers of money. Boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, unloving, unforgiving, slanderers without self-control, brutal, despisers of good, traitors, headstrong, haughty, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness but denying its power. And from such people turn away. For of this sort are those who creep into households and make captives of gullible women, loaded down with sins, led away by various lusts, always learning, never coming to a knowledge of the truth. Now Jannes and Jambres resisted Moses. That's the magicians that Moses and Aaron went against. So do these also resist the truth. Men of corrupt minds, disapproved concerning the faith, but they will progress no farther for their folly. So what those are all, possible idols that 2 Timothy says. How can we resist modern idolatry? We do the opposite of what the children of Israel did. Number one, we are patient. We have patience. Think Jesus doesn't come back in 40 days. Have a little patience. Have patience on God. Don't look to control every situation yourself. That's what they did. The minute they caught Moses gone, we're going to take over. I want to control my own life. I love control. I'm a relentless micromanager of my cases, of the things that I do. I hate to delegate anything. They seized control. And that's what an idol's about. You got a lot more control when you can make it yourself, Keep God at the center so that there is no empty space to fill. Keep coming to worship service. Keep coming to Bible class. Keep reading your Bible. Keep praying to God. Keep God in your life. Don't make that empty space to be filled up with something else. Keep good people around who restrain you. We're not going to get there because I'm going to go somewhere else here in just a second. But God gets mad. Moses gets mad. David's smiling. I told you 32, Drew. You're 4 verses in. Everybody's mad at everybody here at the end. And they go to Aaron, and Aaron's not restraining the people, and he's like, listen, the people are so mean, and everybody's so mean, and they made me do it, and I just threw the gold in, and out popped a cow, but Aaron didn't restrain them. Keep people around you that will restrain you. Focus on the realities and the evidences. God has shown himself. The invisible things of God are clearly seen. There are evidences for God. There's no evidences for that cow. Matthew 22, 34 through 40 is, the main commands. Love the Lord with all your heart, soul, and mind. Do that, and you can fight modern idolatry. I want to leave. I want to leave Exodus 32 after spending extremely little time there. I want you to go with our last 5 minutes from that bell to Hebrews chapter 12. Hebrews chapter 12. Hebrews is a book that was written to Jewish Christians who were wanting to go back into Judaism and leave Christianity. And the Hebrew writer says, don't do that. And here's some reasons why. And here's one reason why. For you're not come to the mount that might not be touched and that burned with fire, nor unto blackness and darkness and tempest, and the sound of the trumpet, and the voice of words which they heard, entreated that the words should not be spoken to them any more. For they could not endure that which was commanded. And if so much as a beast touched the mountain, it would be stoned or thrust with a dart. And so terrible was the sight, Moses said, I exceedingly fear and quake. That's Sinai. I mean, they're talking there about Exodus 19. That's what he's talking about. Don't go back into Judaism. And I would say, don't go back into idolatry. Don't go back into the world. This is not Sinai. Well, what is it then? But you are come unto Mount Zion, and the city of the living God, the heavenly Jerusalem, and to an innumerable company of angels, to the general assembly and the church of the firstborn, which are written in heaven, and to God, the judge of all, and to the spirits of just men made perfect, and to Jesus, the mediator of the new covenant, and to the blood of the sprinkling that speak better things than that of Abel. It's not Mount Sinai that you and I are approaching. We don't have to be terrified of the thunderings and the smokes and the touching of the mountain in our life, because Jesus has become our mediator. And we have prepared for us a different kind of mountain. Mount Zion, the heavenly Jerusalem, where there's the innumerable company of angels, the general assembly of the church of the firstborn, whose names are written in heaven. God's there, the spirits of just men made perfect. That is what we as Christians have. We are drawing near to that mountain, heaven, that has been prepared for us, that we can draw near to because of Jesus Christ. That's what Hebrews tells us that we can do. So don't back away as the children of Israel did. Don't turn back into Judaism. Don't go towards money. Don't go towards your cell phone. Don't go towards politics. Don't go towards any of the things in your life that may fill the emptiness that is there when you push away God. Because if you will stay faithful and true to Him, there is an everlasting reward for you that only the one true and living God, through the mediator that is Jesus Christ, can lay up and prepare for us in our lives. How can we overcome modern idolatry in our lives? Think of Mount Zion. Think of heaven. Think of the reward that is laid up for you, and push the worldly things, the modern idols, to the side. Thank you for your time and your good attention, and we'll wrap up there. But do read the rest of Exodus 32. It's outstanding.